Just as a great ending is crucial to any movie's success, so is the beginning. Today, we are counting down the top 10 scariest horror movie opening scenes. These opening scenes are often a warning of how brutal, gory, or distressing the story will be. Sometimes, the beginning of the movie can contain the scariest moments out of the whole film because anything can happen. Is your favorite horror movie opening scene missing from the list? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10. The Evil Dead from 2013. Starting us off in the woods by itself would be scary enough, but in this opening, we follow a young girl being stalked as she makes her way cautiously. Soon the stalker has captured her, and she comes to with a bag over her head. Soon ripped off by a man she calls Daddy. He tells her he is sorry as he covers her in gasoline as she begs for her life. At the last second though, she changes her tune, and through a smile that would not win Best in the Yearbook, she tells her daddy that she will rip his soul out, like she did to her mother. Just 4 minutes in and we have already switched our sympathy vote from the young girl to her grieving father. We don't know what happened, we don't really need to. We know that something happened to the girl to make her kill her mother, and we don't know when it could happen to someone else. Number 9. Ghost Ship. Ghost Ship opens to a seemingly carefree and joyous celebration on a cruise ship. Passengers dance to a sensual Italian song that has everyone smiling and delighting in their listening night dance. Someone's small daughter dances with the captain, displaying a sense of trust and camaraderie between crew members and passengers, and the credits stretch across the screen in the form of a lively, bright pink script. It isn't long before the mood is completely flipped on its head, when a rogue metal wire set loose by an unknown assailant whips through the crowd, slicing everyone completely in half. The passengers are just as shocked as the viewers, taking a moment to look around at each other before the tops of their torsos slide off their bottoms, and they take their last breaths lying on the deck of the ship. All the while, the young girl watches, much like us, in horror. Number 8. Halloween. Halloween is a movie that puts slashers on the map. Like Jaws, it begins with a long POV sequence accompanied by its very own, soon-to-be unmistakable soundtrack. This POV shot has us sneaking through a dark house. We steal a knife from the kitchen and slowly sneak up the stairs to a girl's room after we see her boyfriend leave for the night. A mask is put over our eyes, and that alone adds more suspense as we now have less information about the world around us. Finally, we approach a girl who calls us Michael just before we stab her repeatedly in front of her mirror. We run out of the house onto the street where we finally see our killer, Michael's face. He is a young boy in a clown costume, and he just murdered his older sister. This becomes the legend that hangs over the town of Haddonfield for years to come. The opening leaves a feeling in the viewer that stays with you until the end of the movie. Michael's presence is felt by all the characters in the movie, even if they don't see him or understand what he is capable of. Number 7. A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. This is an opening that makes you lean in. At first, we aren't sure what we are seeing. As two hands sift through tools and scrap metal, we watch them begin to build something. The sound of the eerie music, accompanied by heavy breathing, causes the small hairs on the back of our neck to tingle, and it's not a lighthearted invention. Next, we watch a woman in a white nightgown, sneaking through the dark and dank corridors. Why is she in a nightgown in a place like this? We hear something that tells us she is not alone, and maybe there is also a lamb somewhere in this place? It's no doubt a little confusing, making it all the more terrifying when we hear Freddy Krueger's iconic theme music. And he jumps out of the dark to grab our nightgown girl, revealing that she was asleep, and we have now been invited into her nightmare. Number 6. Scream. Scream was the movie that brought slashers back into our homes, hearts, and nightmares in 1996. Most horror heads would agree that the film did so in one of the most iconic ways. Beginning in a home where Drew Barrymore answers the phone as she prepares for a quiet night in watching a scary movie. If the amount of time she spends talking to a stranger on the phone doesn't freak you out enough, then his motivation to play a game will certainly do the trick. After making it clear that he knows where she is, what she's doing, and who her friends are, the caller reveals his intention and kills her boyfriend after she fails the killer's first test. This opening ending is where Drew's parents, having to listen to their daughter's vicious murder through their phone, there is no question that the rest of the movie will leave you jumping at the sound of the phone ringing. With so much bloodshed in just the first 11 minutes, this scene is one that does not leave you wondering how it landed itself in the Horror Movie Hall of Fame. Number 5. Final Destination 2 from 2003. Final Destination is one of the most frightening franchises in the horror genre because it can make you feel like just getting dressed in the morning could end you in a gruesome death. The monster isn't a man in a mask or a virus that turns humans into flesh-eating zombies. The monster is in a tanning bed, a rogue nail gun, or the clothesline that hangs in your bathroom. Of course, the actual monster is death, but he has many modes of claiming lives. The point is, you are never safe. Final Destination 2 begins with a group of friends on a road trip, but like all the rest of the movies in the franchise, we are introduced to all the major players right off the bat. We get glimpses of things like the driver of a giant semi drinking at the wheel, a hot cup of coffee that sits, lidless, beside the driver's knee, and easily the creepiest, the little boy smashing his toy trucks into each other repeatedly, all while making eye contact with our protagonist. And just then, the chain that holds a whole stack of giant logs placed on a truck bed snaps, and the sequence begins. It feels like forever as we watch the players die in their own respective horrifying deaths. Burned alive, crushed by a log run over a truck. The sequence is so terrifying in this movie because it's specifically plausible. It's a real-world situation, and it's one that might make you skip the highway and opt for the scenic route on your next drive. Number 4. The Ring from 2002. The Ring begins by inviting us into a teenager's most trusted safe space, a best friend's bedroom. One of the girls asks her friend, Rebecca, "Have you ever seen The Tape?" Apparently, you only have 7 days to live after you've seen it. Rebecca reveals that she's already watched it 7 days ago with her boyfriend. After playing a cruel prank, pretending that the 7th day has caught up to her and taken what it has promised, the girls make their way downstairs to answer an eerily ringing phone. This opening scene plays off the unknowns. You question everything that's happening. Did the girl watch the tape? Is this story real? Did she actually have sex with her boyfriend on the weekend getaway? We don't know until we do. Number 3. 28 Weeks Later. Contrary to the first in the series, that takes place in the empty streets of London, 28 Weeks Later opens in a packed house in the countryside. The camera work does its job to elicit the feelings of isolation and dread. It's dark and claustrophobic and almost feels like our characters are in a dimly lit underground cave. Our characters are interrupted at dinner by a knocking on the door, which we have already established isn't exactly the norm in this new world we find ourselves in. The voice from behind the door belongs to a child, and our assumed protagonist, Don, briefly argues with his wife about whether they should let the stranger in. This sets up exactly the sort of person Don is, one that weighs consequences instead of immediately trying to help another person. You wonder too, what kind of attention all this anxious knocking and screaming has attracted in the time it's taken them to let this stranger in. As soon as we see exactly who the child has been running from, what we can assume is a zombie breaks through the wall, grabs and bites one of the girls in the house. This is used to show us how fast one becomes infected and turns on the rest, and now they have all learned to efficiently and calmly deal with it, aka smashing the infected's head in with a crowbar. Throughout this opening, we see how this world rewards different people. We are forced to ask ourselves, how far would we go to stay alive? Number 2, It, Chapter 1.
She? It was called both she.
She. Thanks, Billy.
Of course, one of our scariest openings had to take place during a thunderstorm. When young Georgie ventures out into a street to play with his new paper boat, his brother Bill watches from the window and warns him to be careful. Georgie places his boat into the street and that is swelled with water from the storm. He gleefully chases it, avoiding the obstacles in his path. He looks like he pretty much has it back under control until he hits his head in a construction barricade that knocks him to the ground. An indication that he is not invincible, and if he's not careful, he could get seriously hurt. Finally, his boat slips into a sewer grate, and unfortunately for Georgie, it's caught by the murderous Pennywise the Dancing Clown, who, after a quick conversation, sinks his giant teeth into little Georgie and drags him into the sewer. Before we get to number 1, here are some of our honorable mentions. 13 Ghosts, Jeepers Creepers, Jaws, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974, and House of a Thousand Corpses. And coming in at number 1 on our scariest horror movie opening scenes, Dawn of the Dead from 2004.
Shoot him in the head!
The 2004 remake of the 1978 classic takes openings to another level. It's a personal level. Some might say there is nothing more intimate and comforting than being in a bed with a loved one. This opening shatters that idea when unsuspecting parents are disturbed to see that their daughter has come into their room, seemingly sick and looking for help. When her father comes to comfort her, though, both parents quickly learn that their daughter is long past seeing a doctor, and in fact, their next call should be to the police. After watching their daughter take a sizable chomp of her husband's neck, the mother finds herself in an absolutely horrific scenario, being chased out of her home by her newly bloodthirsty husband. Once on the street, she sees that she is not living through this nightmare alone. This brilliant intro gives us great insight into the personal aspect of the sort of pandemic like this. Starting in the home, forcing people out, we know that the survivors are all on common ground, and will have to forge alliances to make it through this new world, all while grieving everything that they have to leave behind. Do you agree with our picks? Watch Horror Movies Explained and subscribe for new videos every week.